I'm Jennifer, and you're listening to the Jennifer Kayla Ruskin podcast. I'm passionate about helping you create the relationship and sex life of your dreams. Welcome to conversations about open relationships, online dating, and conscious uncoupling. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Today I have Coach Brian Jenkins. He is a relationship and married men's coach, and today our topic is sex after the storm. How to leverage difficult conversations and bring you even closer. And Brian supports men taking their balls back with love so that they can support their queen without losing themselves in the process. Brian lives in Spain with his wife. Brian, I'm so thrilled that you're on.
Thank you for having me, Jen. This was long overdue. Although we didn't know it, this has been long overdue. So I'm glad we found each other.
I have been fangirling you. Fanboying? I don't really know. I'm a fangirl. So how about that? For several weeks now. And every time you do one of those like Instagram reels, I'm like, oh wait, hold on. I got to stop and I got to turn the sound on. I'm like, I need to listen to this magic. And every time it hits home, and I feel like a little bit of a creeper when I'm in your on your feed, because I'm like, this is probably for men. And like women are probably not supposed to be listening to this, but I really want to know.
To be fair, then the how do I say this? The subliminal message is there, because more often than not, these messages reach more women. They're more willing to listen and take onto it, and they nudge their man, their boyfriend, the men in their lives, and they pull them in. So I use the women as bait.
I love that. They're like, hey babe, check this guy out. And the guys are like, he's really hot, honey. I don't know that I want to follow this.
Not comfortable with this. Not going to work.
All right. Would you stop and tell everybody a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into the sexy topic?
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for organizing this. Thank you for allowing me to take up some space and create, some magic with you from Arkansas all the way to the Canary Islands. As you mentioned, I've been in the relationship and marriage space for about 2 years now. Previously, for about 4 years coaching, first 2 years was specific, high-powered, high-performing men, and really quickly recognized that helping men achieve more, do more was exciting, but not quite fulfilling, because there's still something underneath there. And the truth was that underneath part was something I was going through as well. So I quickly transitioned into relationship coaching, specifically with men, and then recognized that there's a need for couples as well. Because as these men were learning more tools and being able to dive into themselves more and understand how they're showing up, there is still like this space, this void of how to then transfer that to their partner. And so creating some space for both the man and the woman to come in together and do the work together and have these uncomfortable yet juicy and delicious and expansive conversations has been even more rewarding. And to be fair, if I even tell a secret just between me and you, because no one else is going to listen to this, this is based on my own personal experience.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm in the trenches, and so I find this also much more rewarding as well, because as I'm working with people, that it's from their mirrors for me. As I'm stretching them to have these conversations, as I'm stretching them to bridge gaps and to let things go, I get to look at myself and say, well, Brian, what are you still holding on to? It's like, damn, you're so right. Okay. So, at the end of the day, my work revolves around helping people at the core be really authentically them, especially in relationships, and to put their own needs first. And so that I'll stop, because Jen, if you get me going, I'll talk nonstop without even breathing.
Yeah. Two things came up for me as you were speaking. One being a coach to other people puts you in such an interesting, unique position, because if you're woo at all, and I feel like you are, you open up as this channel for this information to pour through for your client. And sometimes I know I'm like, where'd that come from? Like, I didn't actually know that. I'm not even sure what happened.
Right.
It is exactly what they need to see.
Yeah,
and then the other thing, coming from a business background like you, I read over your website and I was like, same, where you try to find fulfillment in the world, and you try to find fulfillment building this big business or helping other people build their big businesses and just sell more things. And then you realize this is really empty. And I love how, as you peeled the onion back, you were like, oh, there's more under here. And when men and women have a solid, healthy, growing, sexy relationship,
Yes.
everything else does better. Like business does better.
Yes.
You make more money. You're
Yes.
happier with your kids.
Yes.
You're showing up to
Yes.
baseball. You're being
Yes.
present because you're
Yes.
not like crunchy and icky and
Yeah.
today's
Yeah.
conversation of difficult
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's and that's perfectly right. And it's exactly right. And what it is one of the kind of the mottos that I use is how we do one thing is how we do everything, and how we feel about one thing is how we feel about everything. And just as you said, it's critical. Like in this home, this temple, this sanctuary where we share space and lives and kids and offspring and all these different things together. If this core doesn't really feel good, if we don't feel like we can be completely authentic here, feel like we could be trusted, feel like we could be supported, seen, respected, so forth and so on here, it's likely that that's how we feel outwardly. And so even though people are doing well, and this is what I get a lot of people, especially the men, who are a bit more in their egos, like, well, Brian, everything's going great. I'm making lots of money. My business is going fantastic. I have all the cars. I have the things. So I'm good. I said, right. So because you are interested in having those things, what would happen if you had more honest conversation with your clients, with your business partners, doing these acquisitions and mergers? What would happen if you actually opened up more space for that, right? And so getting to the core of what home is, it touches everything. So there's a lot of magic there for sure.
And it's so appropriate that we're talking about difficult conversations because as you and I talked before we hit record, you've had some recently. I've had two and been very public about mine, and even like recorded a blog or I wrote a blog post and recorded a podcast about it, because it was like, sometimes I think too, as coaches, we have to go through really difficult things in our own relationship to help other people. And so we have this kind of like liability to this obligation to
100%.
share it with others. So you go first. Tell us about your crunchy stuff.
Oh, look, I just passed the hot potato. I love that. Okay, you're slick. I mean, I was like, she's really going to go in there. And there's like, hot potato.
I was teeing it up for you.
So let me so as I just mentioned, we just had a nice one, a fresh one, fresh out of the oven Monday, a couple of days ago. But let's go to the one where we actually got connected, where your attention got pulled into, and that was the conversation around open relationships. So to give some context, my wife and I have been having a difficult, challenging time for about 2-3 years now, when we found out she has a cyst on her uterus that has become larger. And that cyst has played a part with us not being able to have kids. It's affected her hormones. It affects her menstrual cycles. It affects how she perceives herself, feeling sexy, feeling sensual, feeling like her own body. There's a lot that's going on there, right? And so it's not her fault that this is happening to her, if we want to look at it this way. And yet, although it's not her fault, it still affects our union together. It affects our relationship together. It affects everything: our sex life, our intimacy, how social we are, how friendly we feel like we can be, how playful we feel like we can be, how spontaneous we feel like we can be. There's a lot that's in there. And so the conversation of introducing or contemplating or considering the idea of an open relationship was because sex has really dried up for us. Like, I'm talking about like going on months where we have not been sexually active. And I just turned 40. And I feel like I literally feel like I'm in the best shape of my life. Like, and this is not me trying to feel like I'm trying to cover it up. I really feel amazing, spiritually, emotionally, in my body. And I want to use this machine. I want to connect with my queen in such a way where our bodies come together, where we're penetrating, we're having this delicious sex, not for the sake of because I want to get off, right? Like, I'm not, the quantity doesn't matter more than the quality. And so, but feeling as if I can't have this outlet with my wife, I had the conversation. I said, you know what, we need to really consider, if this goes on for another, I don't know how many months or time, I don't know when the time is going to come. I said, I can't wait anymore. We need to consider an open relationship to save us. I don't even know if I don't know if that's the solution. But all I do know is I don't want to be with another woman. I have no desire to spiritually, emotionally connect with someone else. I have no desire to leave you. I want to be with you. I want this to happen. But there's a part that's not happening, and it's taking a toll on me. As much as I want to be grounded and dig into my truth and go through these practices like semen retention and moving the sexual energy through my body for more creative purposes, all that's great. And yet and still, I want to fuck.
Yeah.
Right.
Her.
So
Yeah.
right.
Her.
Exactly.
I get it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's how the conversation came.
Hey there. I love to tell you about my Patreon account. So as many of you know, As things become more and more censored, it's harder for content creators like us to stay live on these amazing platforms like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. So what I've done is our spicier content now lives over on Patreon. We currently have some really fun episodes up, like how to give amazing blowjobs. I also just recorded and uploaded my night in a dungeon with a dominatrix. What can you expect? Weekly episodes and weekly content, some of it being sex ed, some of it being story and erotic telling, like I just did with my night in the dungeon, some of it being more podcasting where we have a guest on. So for an entry price right now of $5 per month, you can hop into my Patreon account and check it out. Check the show notes below for more information. Hope to see you there. Bye. Okay. I want to speak.
You were ready for all that, were you?
Let me just feel into my body and see how much I want to say back to this. Because, same. I knew that immediately when I connected with you before we hit record that you feel turned on by life. You're a person that like oozes magnetism and sexuality and vitality. And I feel similar in that way. And Scott and I were having this conversation a week or two ago. Here's my difficult conversation. I wasn't sure if I was going to bring this up or not, but I guess here we go. Walked into his office and I said, I did not say this very well. I'm just going to own that. The delivery was not great, but I walked in and I'm
well intended.
So turned on by life. I'm so turned on by the work that I do, both businesses. You and I were talking about how I own a retail business too. I love getting out of bed every morning and I can't wait to look at my computer and look at my emails and see what work we have. Like I can't wait to create the next proposal or put the next item on shelf or sit with a client and hold space for them and come up with new rituals for their relationship to help calm their nervous system. Like all this stuff I'm doing gets me turned on and keeps me turned on all day. And so I was like, and my partner, so fucking sexy. I mean, like he turns me on all day. I just look at him and I'm like, oh my God. So I walk around turned on and horny all day. And so I went into his office and I was like, there have been 2 times in my life that I felt overflowing. You know that feeling where you're sexually overflowing, like your heart is overflowing. You're so connected to your partners, and you just are living in bliss. And it radiates off of you. Like you walk into Walmart and everyone's like, what is happening to her? And you're grungy looking, right? Like, yeah, it's that, And I was like, both of them happened when I was open. Like the first time completely open, had sex every day, had like 10 partners. Cause I mean, I had needs and they were busy. So I was like, okay, you can be Tuesday, you can be Wednesday, you can be Thursday.
Right.
And then the other time was when him and I first opened and we were dating a couple. We also had a lady that we were dating. We were having lots of sex, not only ourselves, because we were all turned on that we were like now open. And so all that was happening. And then we had these partners and I was just like, my sex cup was overflowing and my attention cup was overflowing and my connection cup, like all of these things. And so I was like, it's all I said. And immediately went into the am I not enough conversation that spiraled into the like days of not great stuff. And so this is really today's conversation between you and I, right? Is this when you get into that position with your partner where things are kind of spiraling and they're crunching and they're fucking hard and you want to get out of it. And it's not even sometimes where you wanted to go. You ended up in the mud.
No,
you're
not
like,
at all. Not at all.
Deep, and you're like, I'm trying to get out of here. I'm sorry. Let me backpedal. Because it's not the intention, right? It was to say like, I'm so turned on by you. Like, let's do even more of this. Spiral somewhere else.
Yeah. No, I hear that. And it reminds me of something. I forget which book it was. It was either like the 4 Agreements or the Mastery of Love by the same author, and essentially saying that, we're only responsible for our message. We're not responsible for how it's received. And being in real deep practice in that is to me kind of part of the art of having these difficult conversations. Because like you said, like, I think oftentimes we have this idea of what is like, you had an intention, idea. There's probably a movie playing out like, I'm going to say this to him, and this is what's going to happen afterwards, right? Like the best intention, I'm sure it looked like a Disney movie of sorts. It was colorful. There was music playing. Like there's all kinds of things going on. And all of a sudden, once it came out and you see, oh, he is not feeling the same movie that I had in my mind here. It's like alarms going off. What happened? Abandoned ship. Let's go back if we can. Damage is already done, right?
Right.
But in that, I think in that, that experience of seeing that our intention was not received and that our expectation really didn't play out as planned is what can stop these conversations. And when we stop these conversations and is when we start blocking off all this energy, all this vibration, all this fluidity, all this connection, all this possibility for the fear of.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get caught into, oh, if I had this hard conversation, even though yours sounded like it wasn't meant to be a hard conversation, it kind of morphed into one. It's like, oh, okay, let me hold on to this. But then it starts getting stagnant, starts to stink. It starts to build up. It starts to block.
Hey there. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of my episode with Brian Jenkins. Come back on Wednesday and we'll have part 2 for you.
Yes, yes, and yes, soul, family, and pleasure seekers. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Now, for those of you who want to take this out of the conversation into a more deeper practice, I have 2 programs that would support you in that journey. Now, the first one is for my couples called Intentional Union. And in there, we build your relationship from the ground up with intention, from reimagining intimacy and sexuality, touching on these difficult conversations and truths that may be stopping your relationship from reaching their depth of pleasure and bliss. And the other one is called Man Unshakable, for those men who are married or who desire to be in committed relationships, who want to show up in their authentic expression for their queens without losing themselves. If either one of these speak to you, or if you'd like more information, please contact me. I'll be waiting. Peace, love, and respect. Ciao.